In 2014, Mesut Özil was a World Cup winner, arguably the most creative midfielder on the planet and one of the highest paid players in the Premier League. Germany's football federation built entire tactical systems around his vision. But just 4 years later, at the peak of his career, he walked away from the national team entirely, never to play for Germany again. No injury forced him out. No manager dropped him. He simply quit. So what actually pushed one of Germany's greatest ever players to turn his back on his own country? To understand why Özil left, you have to go back to where he came from. He was born in Gelsenkirchen, the grandson of a Turkish guest worker who migrated to Germany's coal mining regions in the 1960s, one of hundreds of thousands brought in to fuel the country's post-war economic boom. For decades, Germany treated these workers as temporary labor, not future citizens. It wasn't until a 2000 reform of German nationality law that children born to immigrant families could even claim citizenship more easily. Özil was part of the first generation to benefit from that shift, and the German FA leaned into it. He became the poster boy of a new Germany proof that the national team could be multicultural and still win. The problem was, that image only held up on the good days. When Germany lifted the World Cup in 2014, Özil was hailed as a symbol of successful integration. But that framing was conditional from the start, and conditional acceptance always has an expiry date, one that was about to be tested far sooner than anyone expected. That expiry date arrived in May 2018. Weeks before the World Cup, Özil and teammate İlkay Gündoğan were photographed in London with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan posing for pictures and handing over signed shirts. In Germany, the backlash was immediate, and enormous newspapers, politicians, and football officials all piled on, treating it as a loyalty test. Özil had failed. Then, Germany crashed out of the World Cup in the group stage for the first time since 1938, and much of the media searched for someone to blame. Özil became the easiest target. DFB president Reinhard Grindel publicly criticized him, and unlike other players who'd faced criticism before, the coverage of Özil quickly turned racial, questioning his Germanness itself rather than just his form on the pitch. Meanwhile, Gündoğan, who'd taken the same photo, received noticeably less heat. The message Özil took from all of it was blunt. He was German when the results were good. And something else entirely the moment they weren't. On July 22nd, 2018, Özil ended it publicly in a 3-part statement posted to social media. He didn't resign quietly. He laid out, in detail, how he felt he'd been scapegoated for Germany's World Cup exit, while other players faced far less scrutiny. He directly named DFB president Reinhard Grindel, accusing him of racism and double standards, and pointed to years of being told he was German in victory, but treated as an outsider whenever things went wrong. He described feeling like his identity was only ever accepted conditionally. Özil, the World Cup winner, when convenient. Özil, the Turkish German, when a target was needed. The statement landed like a bombshell. German football's own poster child for integration was now publicly accusing the federation of the very prejudice it claimed to have moved beyond. Grindel resigned from his post the following year, partly under the weight of the fallout. But by then, the damage was already done. Özil was gone from the national team for good, at 29 years old, still very much in his prime. Özil never played for Germany again. He carried on for a few more years at club level, a spell at Fenerbahce in Turkey, a country whose president he'd once been condemned for meeting before retiring from professional football altogether in 2021, at just 32. Germany, meanwhile, has never fully recaptured the form it had in 2014. Grindel's resignation in 2019 was framed by many as a quiet admission that Özil's accusations weren't baseless. And in the years since, several German players and commentators have revisited the episode, suggesting the federation mishandled not just a superstar, but a genuine reckoning with who gets to be considered German in the first place. What's striking is that none of this happened because Özil lost his talent or his love for the game. It happened because the identity he was asked to represent was only ever welcomed on the condition that he kept winning. The same nation that lifted him up as the face of a new multicultural Germany dropped him the moment that story stopped being convenient. And that's the real story behind why one of the finest midfielders of his generation walked away from his country at the peak of his powers, not injury, not decline, but a promise of belonging that was never truly unconditional. If you found this story interesting, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the moments that shaped football's biggest names.